this episode, we shift from tricking people into a different stage of an attack, reconnaissance, often shortened to recon. Recon is the work an attacker does to learn about a target before they try to break in, and it can include learning who works somewhere, what systems they use, what services are exposed, and where weak points might exist. For brand new learners, recon can sound abstract, but it is one of the most practical parts of cybersecurity because it connects directly to how real attacks begin. AI matters here because it helps attackers collect, organize, and interpret information faster than before, which means they can study more targets and move from curiosity to action more quickly. This does not mean every attacker has magical powers, but it does mean that steps that used to require time and patience can now be done in bulk with less effort. The goal today is to understand target discovery and enumeration, and to learn what defensive signals might show up when recon is happening. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Recon starts with a simple idea. You cannot attack what you cannot find, and you cannot attack effectively if you do not understand what you found. Target discovery is the phase where an attacker identifies potential victims or systems, like a list of organizations, a set of email addresses, or a range of internet-facing services. Enumeration is the phase where the attacker asks detailed questions about the target, like what software is running, what versions might be present, what accounts or roles exist, and what pathways lead to more sensitive areas. Beginners sometimes picture hacking as one dramatic moment, but most real attacks are shaped by careful information gathering. If an attacker learns that a certain service is exposed, or that a certain team uses a certain workflow, they can craft more believable messages or choose more effective technical paths. Recon is not always loud and obvious. Often it looks like normal internet traffic or normal curiosity. That is why defenders care about patterns, baselines, and context rather than a single event in isolation. AI accelerates recon by acting like a fast research assistant that can read and connect many small clues. Think of the internet as a massive library where details are scattered across many shelves, and recon is the process of collecting those details into one clear picture. AI can summarize long pages quickly, extract names and roles from public documents, and connect a person's job title to likely responsibilities and likely access. It can also generate hypotheses like if a company lists a certain technology in a job posting that might suggest certain systems are present. None of these clues are perfect proof, but recon is often about probabilities and narrowing choices. AI helps attackers build those probability maps faster and at larger scale, which makes targeting more efficient. For defenders, that means reducing exposed clues and watching for the signals that occur when someone is trying to map your environment. Target discovery often begins with what is publicly visible, sometimes called an organization's external footprint. That footprint includes things like domain names, subdomains, public websites, public documents, public contact information, and publicly reachable services. Attackers also pay attention to how organizations describe themselves, because those descriptions often reveal structure, partnerships, and priorities. Even small details can matter, like a page that lists an employee directory format or a support email that shows naming patterns. AI can take scattered public details and turn them into lists, relationships, and likely paths of contact. The discovery phase can also include identifying third parties connected to the target, because attackers sometimes choose a weaker partner to reach a stronger one. This is why organizations think about supply chain risk and why public information hygiene matters, even when you are not sharing secrets. Enumeration is where recon becomes more specific and, often, more detectable. Enumeration can include probing internet-facing services to see what responds, what error messages appear, what versions might be present, and what features are enabled. It can also include learning about user accounts and roles, such as discovering whether an email address exists or whether a certain login portal behaves differently for valid versus invalid usernames. AI can help attackers interpret results by recognizing patterns and recommending next steps based on common configurations. For example, If certain responses suggest a particular platform, AI can propose likely endpoints, typical misconfigurations, or common weak points to test next. Again, the key is not that AI invents information out of thin air, but that it reduces the effort of turning raw clues into a plan. For defenders, enumeration is a stage where signals can emerge because probing often creates repeated requests, unusual patterns, or access attempts that stand out compared to normal user behavior. It is important for beginners to understand that recon is not always illegal or malicious in isolation. Many people scan and explore the internet for research, and many security teams do their own external testing to understand their footprint. What makes recon dangerous is intent and follow-on action, and from a defensive view, the challenge is that you do not always know intent at the moment you see the activity. That is why defenders focus on measuring, logging, and correlating signals rather than jumping to conclusions after one odd request. A handful of unusual requests could be harmless, but a pattern of repeated, structured probing across many endpoints might indicate enumeration. A burst of login attempts spread across many usernames might indicate an effort to learn which accounts exist. Defenders build detection logic that looks for these patterns and then decides when to investigate deeper. Defensive signals from recon often start with volume and repetition. Normal users tend to access a small set of pages or services, and their behavior follows a predictable rhythm. Recon, by contrast, often touches many different endpoints, tries unusual paths, and repeats variations to see what changes. That can show up as a high number of requests in a short time, a sweep across many URLs, or repeated attempts that cause error codes. It can also show up as requests for pages that normal users never visit, like admin paths, backup files, or odd combinations of parameters. Even without diving into technical detail, the key point is that recon looks like curiosity at scale. AI can accelerate that scale by generating lists of guesses and trying them quickly, which increases the chance that defenders see a pattern rather than a single odd event. Another set of defensive signals involves authentication and identity probing. Attackers often want to learn which accounts are valid before they try to steal passwords or trick users. One way they do that is by observing differences in error messages, timing, or behavior when they submit a username. Even subtle differences can help them build a list of real accounts, and AI can help them automate analysis of those differences. Defenders respond by trying to make systems behave consistently, so attackers learn less from probing, and by monitoring for unusual login patterns. If you see many login attempts across many usernames, especially from unusual sources, it can be a sign of enumeration. If you see repeated password reset attempts from many users, it can also signal a mapping effort. These patterns matter because they often come before deeper attacks, and early detection can give defenders time to strengthen defenses or warn users. Recon also includes what you might call human-focused enumeration, where an attacker maps roles, relationships, and routines. This is where AI can be especially effective, because it can read public profiles, public posts, and public organization charts, and then infer who might approve purchases, who might manage access, or who might handle support requests. Attackers use this knowledge to craft pretexts that fit the target's world, like contacting a new hire with a fake onboarding request or contacting a finance worker with a fake vendor problem. Defenders can reduce this risk by limiting unnecessary public detail, but they cannot hide everything, and they should not try to. A better approach is to assume some information is visible and then build processes that do not rely on secrecy for safety. Verification, approvals, and consistent workflows help because they stop a convincing story from turning into a harmful action. AI-accelerated recon can also create a false sense of precision, and that is a point beginners should understand. AI can connect clues, but sometimes it connects them incorrectly, and attackers can waste time chasing wrong assumptions. That means defenders should not panic and assume every attacker has perfect insight. However, defenders also should not rely on attackers being wrong, because even partial accuracy is enough to create danger when combined with persistence. The defensive posture is to treat recon as a normal part of threat activity and to reduce the useful information attackers can gather. That includes reducing exposed services, keeping public content tidy, and ensuring error messages and system behavior do not reveal unnecessary detail. It also includes logging and monitoring so that when recon becomes active and repeated, you see it as a pattern and can respond. Responding to recon is partly technical and partly procedural, but the beginner-friendly concept is that you want to reduce what is visible and increase the cost of probing. Reducing visibility might mean limiting what services are exposed to the public internet and ensuring that public pages do not reveal internal details that are not needed. Increasing cost might mean rate limiting, stronger authentication, and consistent responses that do not leak clues. On the procedural side, it means treating repeated unusual access patterns as a reason to investigate, not just as noise. It also means having a plan for what to do when you suspect recon, like reviewing logs, checking for vulnerable exposures, and informing teams that might be targeted by social engineering. The earlier you detect recon patterns, the more options you have before an attacker moves to exploitation or impersonation. As we close, the key takeaway is that recon is the quiet, planning-heavy stage where attackers learn what to attack and how to approach it, and AI helps them do that faster and at larger scale. Target discovery gathers the broad list of possible targets and visible systems, while enumeration asks detailed questions to map services, accounts, and behaviors. Defenders look for signals like unusual volume, wide endpoint sweeps, repeated errors, and strange authentication patterns, and they respond by reducing exposed information and making probing more expensive and less informative. For a new learner, it can be empowering to realize that many attacks are not sudden surprises. They are the result of visible steps that often leave traces. When you understand recon, you start to see cybersecurity as a game of preparation and observation rather than just emergency response. That mindset will help you connect the later stages of attacks to earlier signals and make smarter decisions about what to protect and what to watch.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.